The moment my world imploded wasn't a sudden, loud explosion. It was the quiet, sickening realization that the truth had been screaming at me for months, maybe even years, and I'd been actively covering my ears. It's a strange, hollow feeling to look back at the wreckage of a life you built and see the warning signs, blinking like neon lights in your memory. You see the times your gut clenched, the conversations that felt off, the excuses you so desperately wanted to believe. It's usually not until a relationship is over that you get the full picture and see the warning signs that were staring you in the face. You might even think, if I had only known this from day one, I could have saved so much time and heartbreak. You replay everything, but this time with the devastating clarity of hindsight. You see the cracks in the foundation you once called solid ground. You see the person you loved, and then you see the stranger who was living a secret life right beside you. The pain of that discovery is deep. It's not just the betrayal itself, it's the betrayal of your own judgment. You start to question everything. How could I have missed this? Was I that naive? Was it all a lie? If you've ever asked yourself those questions, this is for you. I'm sharing the subtle clues I missed, the rationalizations I made, and the quiet alarms I silenced so you can protect your heart. These are the 6 red flags I ignored before my world imploded. If you've ever asked yourself those difficult questions, you're in the right place. Welcome to Nightfall Narrative, where we explore the complex stories that unfold when things fall apart. Subscribe now so you don't miss these crucial conversations. Before we get into the flags, you need to understand what was at stake. You need to see the before to fully grasp the after. Our relationship wasn't just a casual thing. It was the kind of love story you see in movies, or so I thought. The kind of partnership friends call goals. We had our own language, a universe of inside jokes, and a shared vision for the future that felt as real as the house we were turning into a home. He was my best friend, the first person I'd call with good news, the steady hand on my back during bad news. We built a life together, brick by brick, choosing paint colors, planting a garden, hosting holiday dinners where our families blended into one loud, laughing group. It was comfortable, it was secure, and from where I stood, it was deeply and genuinely happy. I trusted him completely. That trust was the bedrock of my world, the one thing I believed was unshakable. And that's what makes betrayal so uniquely painful. It doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your reality. The person you relied on for safety becomes the source of your greatest danger. The life you thought you were living turns out to be an illusion, and you're the last one to find out. I was so invested in making our relationship work, so in love with the life we had, that I became an expert at explaining away the things that didn't make sense. I subconsciously wanted to keep the positive image I had of him and our life, and that desire clouded my judgment in ways I'm only now starting to understand. The first red flag, and probably the one that started the earliest, was the slow and steady increase in his unexplained absences. It began subtly. A guy's night that stretched into the early morning, during which his phone was mysteriously off for the last few hours. A sudden urge to run errands at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. He'd be gone for hours, sometimes with zero communication, and then waltz back in with an explanation that was both plausible and frustratingly vague. I remember one specific Saturday. We had planned to spend the day together working on the house. Around noon, he got a text and announced he had to go help a friend with a car emergency. It sounded legit, so of course I said okay. Hours passed. My calls went to voicemail. Texts went unanswered. As the sun started to set, that familiar knot of anxiety began to tighten in my stomach. Around 9 p.m., he finally walked through the door, smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine and a bar I'd never been to. "What happened? I was so worried," I said, my voice tight with a mix of relief and irritation. His answer was a masterpiece of vagueness. "Oh man, it was a whole thing. The car was a mess, we had to get it towed, then Dave was super stressed, so we just grabbed a few drinks to decompress. Sorry, my phone died." Every single time, there was a reason just good enough to be believable. His phone died. He lost track of time. He was in a place with a bad reception. These explanations are designed to make you feel guilty for questioning them. When you push for more details, which bar, who else was there, you're met with defensive anger. Why are you interrogating me? Don't you trust me? And that was the magic question. Don't you trust me? It's a powerful tool of manipulation that flips the script. Suddenly, the focus isn't on his suspicious behavior, but on your supposed lack of trust. And because I loved him, because I wanted to trust him, I'd back down. I'd tell myself I was being paranoid. I'd accept the vague story because the alternative, that he was lying, was too terrifying to consider. I was doing what psychologists call rationalization, making excuses for his behavior to avoid a painful truth. I'd tell myself, he's just stressed, or he needs his freedom, I can't be clingy. I was minimizing a huge warning sign to keep the peace and the happy image I was desperate to maintain. Looking back, I see this for what it was, a slow destruction of transparency. A healthy partnership doesn't have large, unexplained gaps of time. A partner who respects you keeps you in the loop, not because they have to, but because you're a part of their life. These disappearing acts were him practicing his double life, testing the boundaries of what he could get away with. And every time I accepted a vague excuse, I was unknowingly permitting him to expand the territory of his secrets. The second red flag was how he treated his phone. In the beginning, his phone was just a phone. It would lie on the coffee table, screen up. He'd leave it behind when he went to the shower. I knew his password, not because I was snoopy, but because he'd ask me to reply to a text while he was driving. It was a total non-issue. Then, gradually, the phone became a fortress. It was an extension of his body, a third limb he could never be without. It started with small changes. The phone was always face down. The screen was angled away from me when he was on the couch. He started taking it into the bathroom with him every single time. Notifications were silenced. If a call came through, he'd glance at the screen and either ignore it or get up and take it in another room. I vividly remember one evening while we were watching a movie. His phone buzzed on the end table, face down. He didn't move. It buzzed again and again. A frantic, persistent vibration. I glanced at him. His jaw was clenched, his eyes fixed on the TV, pretending not to notice. "Aren't you going to get that?" I asked. "It sounds important." He waved it off. "Nah, just a group chat. They get crazy." But the energy in the room had shifted. He wasn't there with me anymore. His mind was on that phone. Later that night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to an empty bed. I walked into the living room, and there he was, bathed in the blue glow of his phone, typing furiously. The moment he heard me, he locked the screen and nearly dropped it, his face a mask of panic. "Couldn't sleep," he said, his voice a little too high. "Just scrolling through emails." My heart was pounding. My gut screamed that this was wrong. This wasn't about privacy. This was about secrecy. People living a double life are obsessively protective of their devices because those devices hold the evidence. When I brought it up gently, I was accused of being nosy and insecure. He told me stories of crazy ex-girlfriends who snooped and how he just valued his privacy now. He was gaslighting me, making me question my own sanity for daring to question his sudden, intense need for digital secrecy. I convinced myself that I was the problem, that a good, trusting partner wouldn't feel the need to look. I chose to believe him because I couldn't bear the alternative. But your intuition knows when it's being lied to. That unease you feel when your partner treats their phone like a vault isn't paranoia. It's a signal that something is being hidden. There's a world of difference between a right to privacy and the active, obsessive guarding of secrets. I had let him convince me that his secrecy was my trust issue, a lie that cost me dearly. The third red flag was the series of sudden, unexplained changes in his behavior, routine, and even his personality. It was like living with a chameleon, someone constantly shifting to fit into a life I wasn't a part of. First, the routine. For years, he was a homebody. A perfect Friday night was takeout and a movie with me. Suddenly, he had a whole new social life. There were new work friends I had never met, and they were always going out on weeknights. He started going to the gym at odd hours, coming home late, and not looking or smelling like he'd worked out. Business trips that had never been part of his job started popping up with little notice. "It's a last-minute thing," he'd say. "Just a quick overnight." When I'd ask for the hotel name, just in case of an emergency, he'd get defensive. "I don't even know yet. Stop worrying so much." These weren't small adjustments. They were drastic shifts in the rhythm of our lives. The consistency that was once a comfort was gone, replaced by constant uncertainty. But the changes weren't just in his schedule. They were asterisk in asterisk him. He started listening to new music he'd previously made fun of. He developed a sudden interest in hobbies I knew nothing about. He even started dressing differently, caring more about his appearance for a night out with the guys than for a date night with me. Looking back, it's painfully obvious. He wasn't evolving, he was mirroring someone else. He was creating a version of himself to fit into another world, another relationship. This creation of a second self is a hallmark of someone living a double life. They have to compartmentalize to become a different person for a different audience. Sometimes the mask slips. They might get mixed up, telling you a story that makes no sense or mentioning a place you've never been together. I remember him once talking about a hilarious scene in a movie he'd seen. I said, "Oh, I've been wanting to see that. When did you watch it?" He froze for a second, then said, It was on at the gym the other night." The lie was clumsy, but again, I let it go. Why? Because our brains crave consistency. It's something called cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort of holding two conflicting beliefs. My belief was he is a faithful, loving partner. The evidence was his behavior is strange and secretive. Instead of changing my core belief, I chose to distort the evidence. I told myself he was just trying new things, that I should be supportive. I was so afraid of being the nagging, controlling girlfriend that I failed to see I was being the naive one. I was afraid of rocking the boat, so I pretended the boat wasn't taking on water. People in healthy relationships grow together. They share new interests. They integrate new friends. They don't build a separate, secret life that runs parallel to the one they share with you. We're about to get into the next 3 flags, which are often the most painful. Before we continue, if this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to subscribe to Nightfall Narrative. We're building a community of survivors who understand, and your voice matters here. Perhaps the most painful and sneaky red flag was the slow, creeping emotional and physical distance. It's the quiet, gradual withdrawal of care, attention, and affection. It's the feeling that the person you love has just stopped trying. It started with a lack of curiosity. He stopped asking about my day. I'd come home full of stories, and he'd just nod along, his eyes glazed over, clearly somewhere else. The deep conversations that used to last for hours were replaced by silence. It felt like I was living with a polite roommate, not the man I loved. The emotional thread connecting us was unraveling, and I felt it in my bones. Then came the physical distance. The casual touches vanished, the hand on my back in the kitchen, the arm around my shoulder on the couch. He stopped initiating affection. When I would try, he'd often gently push me away, claiming he was too tired or not in the mood. Intimacy became a chore, something that felt like an obligation. The rejection was subtle at first, but it grew into a constant, aching presence in our relationship. It chipped away at my self-esteem, making me feel unwanted and undesirable. This withdrawal is a classic sign of infidelity. A person getting their needs for intimacy met elsewhere often stops seeking it at home. They might even actively avoid closeness to reduce guilt or the risk of slipping up. But instead of seeing it as a reflection of him, I, like so many in this position, internalized it. I blamed myself. Am I not attractive enough anymore? Am I too demanding? Did I do something to push him away? This self-blame is a devastating consequence of being betrayed. Cheaters often project their own guilt onto their partners. They pick fights, criticize, and act distant to make you feel like the problem. It's a way to justify their own actions. If they can convince themselves the relationship is flawed because of you, it lessens their guilt. I remember him saying things like, "You're always so emotional," or "Why do you need so much reassurance?" He was turning my natural reactions to his coldness into character flaws. This slow fade is agonizing because it makes you question your own worth. The truth is, his disengagement was never about me. It was about him. He had already left the relationship emotionally, long before I ever knew. He just didn't dare to say it. The silence, the lack of touch, the emotional void, it wasn't a sign of my failure. It was the sound of him quietly closing the door on us. The fifth red flag showed up in two areas where he'd always been an open book: money and friends. Suddenly, both were shrouded in a thick fog of secrecy. Let's start with money. We'd always been transparent about our finances. We had a joint account for bills and shared savings goals. It was a team effort. Then, I started noticing things that didn't add up. There were unexplained cash withdrawals from the ATM, often a few $100s at a time. When I sked, the answers were always vague. "Oh, I needed cash for lunches," or "I paid back a friend." But the frequency and the amounts felt off. Then came the credit card statements he started trying to hide. One day, a bill came, and I opened it without thinking, like always. I saw a charge for a fancy restaurant on a night he was supposedly working late. I saw a hotel charge in a city he had no business being in. My blood ran cold. When I confronted him, his reaction was explosive. It wasn't just defensiveness, it was rage. "Why are you going through my mail? This is my private information. You have no right." He turned my discovery into a violation of his privacy, a story where I was the villain for snooping. It was classic gaslighting. He made me question if I had crossed a line, even though my gut told me I had stumbled onto a critical piece of the puzzle. Financial infidelity is a massive red flag. Secret credit cards, unexplained expenses, a sudden demand for financial privacy after years of openness. These are often signs of a secret life that needs funding. At the same time, his social circle was split in two. He had his old friends, the ones we both knew, and then he had this new group of work friends that I was never, ever allowed to meet. He'd talk about them. "Mike said this. Sarah did that," but they were like characters in a book, completely disconnected from our lives. When I'd suggest we all get together, he'd have an excuse. "Oh, they're not really your crowd," or "It's just a work thing, it would be boring for you." This is a huge warning sign. A partner who's truly invested wants to integrate you into all parts of their life. Hiding you from an entire group of people means they are hiding something about that group from you. It's about controlling the narrative and keeping their two worlds from colliding. In my case, I later found out that his new work friend was the woman he was having an affair with. He couldn't let me meet her or her friends because the whole house of cards would have collapsed. I rationalized it by telling myself I was being insecure. I didn't want to be the partner who had to know everyone. I wanted to be the cool girlfriend. I told myself, he's allowed to have his own friends. But this wasn't about a healthy social life. This was about him deliberately building a wall between his life with me and his secret life. The financial fog and the secret friends weren't about privacy. They were the infrastructure of his betrayal. The final and most psychologically damaging red flag was his mastery of gaslighting and blame shifting. This wasn't a single action, but the toxic glue that held all the other lies together. It was the way he manipulated my perception of reality until I no longer trusted my own mind. Gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse where the abuser makes you question your own sanity, memory, or perception. It's the denial of your lived experience. Every time my intuition screamed that something was wrong, he had a way of turning it back on me, making me feel like I was crazy. I'd say, "You seem distant lately," and he would respond, "I'm not distant, you're just being needy, you're imagining things." I'd bring up an inconsistency in one of his stories, and he would look at me with manufactured pity and say, "You're misunderstanding. I never said that. You always twist my words." He would deny events that I knew had happened with such conviction that I would genuinely start to doubt my own memory. The blame shifting was just as corrosive. Nothing was ever his fault. If he was late, it was because of traffic I should have known about. If he was in a bad mood, it was because of something I did. If our relationship was struggling, it was because of my insecurities, my paranoia, my inability to just trust him. I was told I was sabotaging our marriage with my suspicions. I remember one particularly devastating conversation. I was crying, telling him I felt like he was slipping away and I was scared. I laid my heart bare. Instead of comfort, I got a cold analysis. "You see," he said, his voice calm and clinical, "this is the problem. Your anxiety is pushing me away. You create these dramas in your head and it's exhausting. I can't live like this." I was shattered. He had taken my valid emotional response to his neglect and framed it as the very cause of it. It's a psychological checkmate. How can you argue with someone who insists your feelings are the problem? The psychological stress of trying to square two realities, the man I loved versus the man capable of this cruelty, is that state of cognitive dissonance, and it's profoundly disorienting. This is the ultimate goal of gaslighting, to erode your self-trust so completely that you become easier to control. If you can't trust your own gut, you have to trust their version of reality. I stopped listening to that quiet inner voice. I believed his narrative, that I was flawed, that my intuition was just anxiety, and that if I could just fix myself, our perfect life would return. It's the cruelest betrayal because he wasn't just lying to me, he was teaching me how to lie to myself. After months, even years, of ignoring my intuition, accepting excuses, and believing the gaslighting, the truth finally became too loud to silence. The implosion wasn't a clean break. It was a series of ragged, brutal revelations that tore my world apart. It happened on a Tuesday night. He was asleep, and for the first time, he'd forgotten to guard his phone. It was on his nightstand, screen up. A notification lit up the dark room. It wasn't the message that caught my eye, but the name, a woman I didn't recognize, followed by 3 heart emojis. In that instant, Every red flag I had ever ignored came rushing back in a tidal wave of sickening clarity. My hands were shaking, my heart hammering. I knew if I picked up that phone, my life as I knew it would be over. But I also knew I couldn't live in the fog for one more day. What I found was not just an affair. It was a complete parallel existence. There were thousands of messages, declarations of love, photos of them on work trips, inside jokes mocking ones about me. I saw our entire relationship, our home, our future, all rewritten through the lens of his betrayal. The car emergencies, the late nights at the gym, the work friends I never met, it was all her. The feeling is a form of trauma. Some researchers even call it post-infidelity stress disorder. It's a profound mental shock. I felt a wave of disbelief so intense it felt like reality was distorting. The man sleeping next to me was a stranger. The life I woke up in every morning was an elaborate stage play. I didn't scream or cry. I just went numb. I walked into the living room and sat on the couch in the dark, the phone heavy in my lap like a tombstone. My brain couldn't process it. It was like trying to solve an impossible math problem. The man I trusted could not be the same man who wrote these words. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. I felt an obsessive need to know everything, scrolling back months, then years, each message a fresh stab of pain. When he woke up and found me, the final act of gaslighting began. He tried to deny it, even with the proof in my hand. It's not what it looks like. We're just friends. You're blowing this out of proportion. But the spell was broken. I could finally see him for who he was. The implosion wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the collapse of my security and my trust in my own judgment. And in the rubble, I had to face the terrifying task of figuring out who I was and how to ever trust anyone, especially myself, again. The aftermath of the implosion is a lonely, disorienting place. You're grieving the loss of a person and the loss of the life you thought you had. You're mourning a future that was never real. For a long time, my dominant emotion was shame. I felt like a fool. How could I have been so blind? This self-blame is a common trap, a way we try to regain control in a situation we never had control over. But here is the most important thing I have learned, and what I need you to hear. It is not your fault. You didn't miss the signs because you were stupid or naive. You missed them because you were hopeful. You missed them because you were in love. You missed them because you are a trusting person and someone manipulated that beautiful quality and used it against you. Your capacity to love is not a weakness, it's a strength. The failure is in their character, not yours. Rebuilding self-trust is a journey. It begins with letting yourself feel everything without judgment, the anger, the grief, the sadness. I spent a lot of time reconnecting with myself, rediscovering hobbies I'd let go of, and spending time with friends who reflected my true worth to me. Slowly, I learned to listen to my intuition again. Trusting yourself doesn't mean you'll never be hurt again. It means knowing that if you are, you will have your own back. The red flags I shared are invitations to honor your own intuition. That quiet voice, that clench in your gut, it isn't paranoia. It is your deepest self telling you to pay attention. Do not let anyone, no matter how much you love them, convince you that your feelings are invalid or your perception is wrong. You deserve a relationship built on the solid ground of respect and transparency, not the shifting sands of secrecy and lies. This healing journey can feel incredibly isolating, but you are not alone. Here at Nightfall Narrative, we believe there's strength in shared stories. There's a whole community of people who have walked through this fire and come out stronger. Your story has power, and sharing it helps remove the shame. So I want to ask you, what's one red flag you'll never ignore again? Share it in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can learn from and validate each other's experiences. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Nightfall Narrative and turn on notifications. By sharing our wisdom, we can help protect each other's hearts. Thank you for listening.